Chiswick, you're voluntary?
Mm-hmm.
Scanlon? Billy, for Christ's sakes, you must be committed, right? No. You're just a young kid. What are you doing here? You got to be out in a convertible, bird dogging chicks and banging beaver. What are you doing here, for Christ's sake? What's funny about that? Well, Jesus, I mean, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? I mean, what do you think you are, for Christ's sake? Crazy or something? Well, you're not. You're not. You're no crazier than the average asshole out walking around on the streets, and that's it. Jesus Christ, I can't even believe it.
Chris Kelzer here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt, we're going to discuss A Quiet Place, John Krasinski's third film. Not his first film, as we initially thought, but Mr. Krasinski's third directorial effort. It's about, well, he's trying to keep his family alive because there's a bunch of monsters out there, or aliens or alien monsters, who they hunt on sound, Matt. So you have to find a quiet place. And then, of course, Wes Anderson returns with Isle of Dogs. This is his second animated feature after Fantastic Mr. Fox, a film at the time that I felt I was a little underwhelmed by, and we'll see if he's able to turn me on the stop-motion animation with Isle of Dogs. And then in honor of A Quiet Place, we're going to discuss our 5 favorite silent scenes. But first off, we wanted to just do a quick honorarium there for Milos Forman, who passed away yesterday, director of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Amadeus, Hair, Man on the Moon, People vs. Larry Flint. I could go on and on. But he had passed away yesterday, so we wanted to just do a quick little mention for him. And Matt, let's start everything off with a clip from A Quiet Place.
Who are we if we can't protect them? We have to protect them.
So, Matt, that's pretty much all I could use.
Yeah, I figured. I was wondering how long you're going to let that go.
Almost everything out there, clip-wise, of course, was just scenes of quiet horror, which is basically what this film is, right? So it's set, 20 years in the future? And
Not even. Yeah, I think that gravestone that we see is 2020.
Okay. So it's actually pretty much around the corner. Great.
Yeah.
Something else to look forward to.
Right.
So mankind is being hunted to extinction by these monsters who they hunt you, Matt, as we said, on sound.
Right.
So John Krasinski's got 3 kids, 2. And he's got Emma Blunt, who is now pregnant with their next child. And I can't imagine, right? Living in that post-apocalyptic type world where the slightest sound is going to bring these monsters to you, and then you're going to bring a newborn into the world.
Seriously. Whew. They're not known for being quiet or reasonable.
That's what I've heard. So Platinum Dunes, right, was one of the production companies behind this. And let me tell you, they have, for me, a long history of turning out stinkers.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the horror. They're the ones that have basically been behind all of the horror remakes, the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. Right. And it's just been, I think, one disaster after another. So when I saw that on there, pop up, I'm like, oh, okay. But I think, thankfully, they've redeemed themselves with this one. I think Krasinski does a fantastic job building this world, right? And how it guides us through it. Just the opening is fantastic and terrifying. And I think one of my big concerns is that this thing could have become gimmicky.
Yeah.
Right. That we have to rely on being quiet, and the slightest sound could detract. And I was a little nervous about that. But for me, it never got to that point. What were your thoughts about A Quiet Place?
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. You know, I wanted to see this. This was actually one of my more anticipated films of the year. And you know, it's doing really well from a critical standpoint and a box office standpoint, but I got a little nervous. I always get a little nervous when people start gushing about how great a horror movie is, especially, and I was trying to avoid any of that stuff because I didn't want to have my expectations set too high. And this is really, really good. I really enjoyed this. You know, I think Krasinski does a great job of, you know, keeping it lean and tight and just telling you what you need to know. Like if you're going into like a whole lot of backstory about what these things are or how the kind of inner logic of all this works, that's not really there. He just gives you enough snippets and focuses on the family and the story, and that's kind of where he goes from there. And I appreciated that. It was pretty tense the whole time. Like the whole thing, he kind of ratchets up the tension from the very beginning and just kind of let it go from there. You know, jump scares as you would expect, but not super gory, some blood, but not super gory, and just kind of willingness to go places that you wouldn't expect a lot of horror films to go, especially with a lot of, you know, children in peril kind of stuff, you know, and you're never sure who the hell's going to be coming out of this thing for sure.
No, I agree. And for me, one of the big successes of this thing is it's not so much just about the horror and the scares. I think the family dynamic plays out really well too. And the loss that they feel after losing that first child at the opening of the film. And Emily Blunt, I think, and Krasinski both turn in good performances here. And it's you know, and they're married too, folks, by the way, if you don't know. So we don't have a Geely scenario here. Everything actually seems to work out pretty good.
Yeah.
And they certainly have some chemistry. Not that it's a romantic comedy or anything, but feels very authentic. I think the choice by going with sound being the attractor is used very effectively. I think because the movie is so silent for a lot of it that when the monsters show up, there's even more heft and power to it. And it really kind of drives it home. I think one thing I thought about though watching this thing is I was wondering if this actually would be better viewed at home.
You think so?
Because people can't be quiet.
Right.
And I was in a pretty packed theater, and like you're hearing every chew, every little phone vibration, you know, all that stuff. And it kind of pulls me out of it a couple times, but that's the fault of my audience. I had one guy who was about 5 rows back from the front of the screen who was basically on his phone the whole time.
Right.
And I just
should have kicked him out, the Philistine.
I feel that they should station. I think Alamo does this, but station an usher in the theater.
Oh, really?
And if somebody does something, that they get escorted out.
Oh, really? Wow.
Or I had an idea for cell phone dampening theaters.
There you go.
So it blocks all signals. So and obviously we'd tell you ahead of time, but if you go in there, your phone's not going to work. So don't bother even checking it.
All right. That could have its own problems, but okay. But yeah,
well,
I mean,
what did we do before? It's not like cell phones have been around for hundreds of years.
Get off my lawn, right, Chris?
Exactly. you have the babysitter call the theater, and then they'll come get you.
There you go.
If there's a problem. Outside of that, I don't want to hear about it. Suck it up. And we'll do 2 screenings, Matt. We'll have another theater that's got the cell phone. There'll be the text theater, and then there'll be the one for people like us, because more and more people are going to the movies.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
sure.
Anyway, to get back to the whole point, I felt this was top shelf horror entertainment. I thought the creature designs were great, and it's a nail-biting suspense, and I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. So kudos to Krasinski and crew. It's also, as you said, a big financial success. They were thinking this was going to maybe be a $15 to $20 million film, and they upped it to maybe 30, and it pulled in 50 on its opening weekend. Cost them 17 to make, and they're at around 93 right now. So good for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want a sequel. Let's end this where it is. I don't think we need one.
Yeah.
But still, I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. What'd you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I think it was a good, solid horror film. You know, we still got a big one coming out in the summer, so we'll see if it takes the title of horror film of the year. But I really enjoyed it. It's very tense. It's very well done, well acted, and as you said, everything seems very believable. You know, if you're a nerd who's really going to pick it apart, fine. There may be some things that it falls apart under really close scrutiny, but stop doing that, nerd, and you'll just enjoy yourself. So I would give this, I don't know, B+. I think I'm leaning towards B+.
No, I was vacillating between B plus and A minus,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stick with my A minus for now.
Yeah.
The best thing I can say, I think the highest compliment I can pay this thing is that this felt like an A24 film to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a very high compliment indeed.
So, good job, Johnny. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah. Jim.
Jim. Did I said Johnny? Yeah, Johnny. John Krasinski.
Johnny. Yeah, you did. I know.
Why are you saying? What are you screwing me up for? I'm very sensitive. Okay.
The show's over. I've derailed Chris's train of thought.
I can't focus. So if you got a chance to see A Quiet Place, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Matt, coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, that is the 17th of April. It's going to be The Post. Steven Spielberg's story about the Pentagon Papers is being released. Includes a bunch of behind-the-scenes making of featurettes. I feel like I don't know if I have any draw to see this again. I know, like, I thought I felt that way with Spotlight, but Spotlight's one of those good TNT, films where it's a good one to have on the background, your Shawshanks. So I don't know if The Post is quite at that level. But if you haven't seen it, I think it's still worth seeing, but
it's all right.
Yeah. Same, yeah. A film that I got to see, you didn't. I don't think I talked about it for the show either, is The Commuter, which is Liam Neeson doing Liam Neeson things, who I believe retired from action movies 3 or 4 years ago, but here we are. He plays a commuter on a train, and Vera Farmiga comes up to him and basically gives him money to point somebody out that they're going to whack, as the kids say. And then he has to solve the mystery, beat up some people, and then save the day and save everybody on the train. It's worth a rental. I'll give it. I'll go that far. Criterion is giving us The Awful Truth. Cary Grant stars in this Oscar-winning farce, basically a film that defined the Cary Grant persona. Includes a new 4K digital restoration, a new interview, and a new essay as well. And also, Criterion is giving us The Color of Pomegranate, a film I'm not familiar with, Matt. It's a breathtaking fusion of poetry, ethnography, and cinema. Sergei Bajanov's masterwork overflows with images and sounds that burn into the memory. In a series of tableaux that blend the tactile with the abstract, The Color of Pomegranates revives the splendors of Armenian culture with the story of an 18th century troubadour, Sayat Nova, charting his intellectual, artistic, and spiritual growth through iconic... Damn it! I was so close to reading all those big words without messing up. Iconographic compositions rather than a traditional narrative. I was really impressed with myself because I hadn't read that previously. Usually I read everything ahead of time.
Sure.
I was like, oh, I'm going to nail this. I'm going to nail this as I'm going through it. And of course, I tripped myself up. Includes a new 4K digital restoration, new audio commentary featuring critic Tony Rines, a couple new interviews and video essays as well. I think, Matt, though, the big thing for me this week, and I'm embarrassed to say this, I'm still 3 episodes out that I have to watch. The Mystery Science Theater 3000 season 11 is being released on DVD. That's the new one.
Okay.
With Jonah. Includes a documentary. We brought back MST3K. As a backer, I got digital copies of all the episodes, but I've made a point to watch them on Netflix to make sure they have a second season, or 12th, and they have been greenlit, so we will have another season. But I said I'm still 3 or 4 episodes out, unfortunately. So I gotta get back on that train. Have you watched any of them yet?
I watched the first one. See, the problem with Mr. Science Theater, it's a commitment. It's a 2-hour show, hour and a half, 2-hour show. So you kind of got to sit down and do it. But I'm with you. I'm way behind. I'm a terrible fan. I
gotta admit too, I felt that first one wasn't terribly good.
Yeah.
I only chuckled a few times, but it gets better as you go. So
yeah. I
think it's the writers, and they're still kind of finding the voice of the show. For me too, part of the issue is it's too fast. The jokes are too rapid fire. I feel like they never have a lot of room to breathe or settle.
Yeah. Oh boy, I think we're getting old, Chris.
Could very well be. It's the kids. It's this generation, right? Yeah. They need their jokes fast and furious.
That's right. We need them time to breathe. We need them to marinate a little bit.
Exactly.
Have a little heft to them.
But it gets better. A couple things too getting released on Blu-ray for the first time. Nicolas Cage and I believe it's Penelope Cruz and Captain Corelli's Mandolin, and then finally Dolly Parton in Straight Talk. Your straight to DVD pick of the week is Braven. Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa, stars in this intense action thriller about a logger fighting for survival against drug traffickers who have stashed heroin in his hunting cabin. That seems very specific to me, but still, it's your man Momoa, who is coming up to, I can't remember, did I say he crossed the Tatum line because of Justice League? I think he's close.
No, don't be crazy. No,
All
you
right.
didn't say that.
So this is a Momoa straight to DVD actioner, and there you go. Did you hear they Randall Park has been brought in to do some reshoots for Aquaman?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what his role is going to be, but they brought him in to do something. I don't know.
Do something. All right.
So what should we be streaming this week?
All right, so I'm going to go to one of the classic spaghetti westerns, the middle entry that I think doesn't get a lot of as much attention as it should. For a few dollars more is available on Amazon Prime. Stars Clint Eastwood as the man with no name, whose name I believe is Joe, which is said multiple times in all the films. And he teams up with Lee Van Cleef, the match made in heaven, while they go hunt down a bunch of, I believe they're Mexican desperados. Really good, solid film. It's got the kind of music box thing, which sets up some really haunting scenes. It's doesn't get as much attention as A Fistful of Dollars or The Good, and it's both of which are also overshadowed by The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, but still a fantastic film. And if you haven't checked it out, a classic Western that you need to see.
I think I've said this before. It is my favorite of the trilogy. I know, like you said, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly gets all the praise, and it is epic, but I just enjoy for a few dollars more.
I'm with you.
Good.
Good.
I'm glad we're both on that side. All right, Matt. Let's move on then, shall we?
Let's
go ahead and talk about Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs.
Okay, I got a question. What's your favorite food?
A double portion of doggy chop from the can mixed into a bowl of broken puppy snaps with a vitamin crushed up into it.
King's the spokes dog for that. He's the doggy chop dog.
Yeah, used to be.
Was that your daily meal?
Not always. My master was a school teacher. We weren't rich, you know. You?
A center cut Kobe ribeye, seared on the bone with salt and pepper.
Wow.
It was my birthday supper every year.
Mine's hot sausage, yakitori style. The snack vendor always saved me one on game days.
Duke?
Green tea ice cream. My master had a sweet tooth. I probably inherited it from her. You heard the rumor, right, about Doggy Chop?
That's my
Remind us
favorite
again.
brand.
What rumor?
Yeah, they folded. Oh, no.
Doggy chop folded?
How about you, Chief? What was your favorite food?
Me? Oh, I don't care. Garbage, trash, scraps of rubbish. I'm used to leftovers.
Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't always astray.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, of course, I wasn't always astray.
Really?
Since
Tell us
when?
about that.
All right, Matt. Yeah.
You can do it.
I got some awesome new editing software, which I am going to use. All right, Matt. So I want to tell the folks at home or on the road or biking right now, maybe they're on a 5K for some charity that they love. What is Isle of Dogs all about?
So it's near future Japan. The mayor of a city called Nagasaki is the long descendant of a cat-loving samurai clan named Kobayashi, and he comes up with an insidious plan to rid the city of all of its dogs by, banishing them to an island of trash, basically the Isle of Dogs. And his young nephew, who is his ward, travels to the island to get his dog Spots back. And he runs into some anthropomorphic dogs that he can't understand, but have delightful voice acting by a star-studded cast.
Yeah, you got quite a group there too, right? Bryan Cranston and Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum. So there's quite and Edward Norton, of course. So I was underwhelmed, as I said, about Fantastic Mr. Fox. What were your thoughts on it? I thought you rather enjoyed it, correct?
I think I liked it better than you, but I didn't think it was fantastic. I mean, well, it wasn't fantastic. I don't think I've watched it since we recorded it for one of the very first shows. Does have a special place because it was I think it was our first show or second show. Yeah,
it was the first.
It was the first. So yeah, it was okay, but I haven't seen it since, to be quite honest with you. And I've never had any real desire to catch up with it.
This made me want to rewatch it. I
Yeah.
felt that this was just a very solid, entertaining effort. It's funny, when I first walked out of it, my notes were quite different. I just thought it was a beautiful film. It was
Mhm.
humorous, and of course, it's got that Wes Anderson ennui or whatever, So, or as the French like to say, that certain I don't know what.
Sure.
But it's the smirk and all the wonder and stuff that Anderson is known for here is in it. As time passed since I saw it, though, I've softened on it a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like what happened was I was going an overview of Anderson's films, and of course I remembered the absolutely magical Moonrise Kingdom, and it just is not as good as that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but what about, well, obviously it's not as good as Royal Tannenbaums, and it's not as good as Rushmore, and it's not, so I've kind of rethought my feelings about it. It's still it takes some fun and unusual turns, and it certainly tickled my quirky bone, right? And if you're a fan of Anderson, I think you're really going to enjoy this. I just didn't really connect with it emotionally as I had some of his other films. I feel maybe we could have trimmed a good 15 off of this thing too. I think maybe some of the diversions and paths he choose don't really pay off as much as I'd hoped. And I don't know. One thing I could say too, you can really see his love for Kurosawa, particularly the opening when the dogs are facing off with the other dogs over the drop sack.
Right.
There's a lot. I feel like I could just do a whole video essay on the Kurosawa nods throughout this thing. But still, it's fun. It's a solid, entertaining film, and it is a joy to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the animation is just a wonder, and it's beautiful. So I would recommend it just because of that.
Right.
But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I agree with you 100% that it's not anywhere near top shelf Anderson. I mean, it's, you could probably put at least a half a dozen films in front of this, right? But I feel like it's its own thing. Like I think like comparing it to a Rushmore or Grand Budapest or Royal Tannenbaums, it doesn't seem fair. It seems like it's its own thing, and its own complete kind of class by itself as far as his filmography goes. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely got a lot of whimsy to it. It was kind of made me smile and chuckle in quite a few places. The voice acting is great. Bryan Cranston I thought was awesome as the lead dog. It was actually darker in some parts than I was really expecting it to go. I mean, you kind of watch an animated film and you expect it to be, kind of more kid friendly, or maybe that's just kind of it disarms you that way. But it was pretty dark in a couple of places, and kind of a nihilistic sense of humor, kind of thing. But overall, I had a really good time watching it. I think if you judge it against the rest of his films, like I said, I think this is probably, I would grade it much lower than that. But on its own merits, I would give it a pretty high grade. I really enjoyed it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think you're right. So what's your letter grade for the Isle of the Dogs?
I'm actually going to give it an A-. I had a really good time watching it.
I have it at a B.
Okay.
Which I think is the accurate choice.
I see. If I was comparing it to the rest of Anderson's films, I would say it's probably B- B film. Sure. Mm-hmm. But I think, for an animated beast fable kind of thing, I think it's pretty good.
I just don't know if I can extrapolate it from his canon because it is so very much a Wes Anderson film. If you had shown that to me and didn't tell me who directed it, I could have told you that it was his.
Right. Yes, but it still feels like if you watch Moonrise Kingdom or you watch Tannenbaums or you watch Grand Budapest, it almost seems like they're all in the same world, like in this weird kind of alternate universe or whatever. This just seems like it's a completely separate thing to me. I mean, and maybe, it's okay to disagree, but I mean, I don't think I'm incorrect necessarily. Well, you're not the arbiter of all things correct filmically, Christopher.
You should take some time and think about that. If you got a chance to see Isle of Dogs, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. B-film. Okay, Matt, next up, we're going to talk about what we think are our the five favorite. I don't know. I always go back and forth on that because I feel like we're saying the five best. is a little too arrogant, like me telling you that your letter grade is wrong for Isle of Dogs.
Right.
But then Favorite doesn't seem to have the same punch.
Right.
So, and we are very pretentious. So we'll just stick with it. Here, we're going to talk about the 5 best silent scenes. There's one movie, Matt, that I'm not allowed to include in any of my lists.
Mm-hmm.
So you sons of guns are just going to have to listen to a clip from it.
All right, there you go.
Want a glass of water?
Okay. Thanks.
You just moved to LA?
No, I've been here for a while.
You're just new here?
Mm-hmm.
That's Benitio's father.
Where is he?
He's in prison.
Oh,
What do you do?
I drive.
Like a limo driver?
Like for movies.
Oh. You mean all the car chases and stuff?
Yeah.
Not dangerous?
Listening to that, I don't know if it quite works as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're talking about a film that there's very little dialogue. It's very, everything's conveyed through body language and mood,
It
and
looks
you're trying to
and
put it out
music,
there. Just
yeah.
because you wanted to talk about it, and we knew we've said that you can't talk about it anymore.
So obviously that is Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive. They went actually and pulled out, him and Gosling went together and pulled out dialogue for the film and wanted to rely more on, as he said, the looks and the body language and stuff. And it is a perfect film. I was looking at different clips to try and pull for the show. And I'm like, I haven't watched this film in like a year and I have to. And I remember too, hearing the music swells of Cliff Martinez's score. It's a stunning film, and I have to watch it again. It's been too long. But I'm not allowed to include Drive in anything anymore. So breaks my heart. I'll go first, Matt, so you get the ultimate number 1. I'd be surprised if we don't have the same one, but we'll see. My number 5 is the mirror scene from Duck Soup. If you're not familiar, is with Groucho and Harpo. Groucho comes up, and it's an open kind of doorway. And then Harpo just kind of mirrors him it runs it for about 2 minutes, but it is absolutely hilarious. I'm a huge Marx Brothers fan, and it's one of my all-time favorites. If you haven't seen it, you have to absolutely check it out. And Duck Soup is probably their best film. So mirror scene, Duck Soup, numero 5.
All right, there you go. So wait, let me just ask one quick question about your criteria. Yeah. Is it just no dialogue, or is it actually literally a quiet scene? Because I went with no dialogue.
Well, yeah, mine have maybe some ancillary sounds or music, but there's no dialogue. Yes.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Okay. All right. So then my number 5, because I'm reconnecting with it, and I'm forgot how much I enjoyed these films. Is the we referenced it last week, the Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris pre-fight scene in Return of the Dragon. Basically, the entire thing is just looks and glowers at each other, and then they kind of do this like warm-up thing with a cat that walks around, and it's fantastic. The entire fight kicks off by a cat meowing, which you really can't get any better than this. The entire thing has no dialogue in it at all, so it's a lot of fun, and it's you watch it and you'll see where Tarantino gets a lot of his influence for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to add those to my list, my infinite, my never-ending list of things I have to say. Yeah, I have a buddy of mine. Every now and then he'll text me like, "Hey, have you seen this yet? You have to check it out." I'm like, adding it to the list. He's like, "Whatever." Stuff, but I just never get around to see it.
Yeah.
So my number 4 then is Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Cercle Rouge. Basically, it's the heist scene. I don't know if you've ever seen The Red Circle, Matt, but it is a fantastic French crime film. and it stars Elaine Delon. Elaine Delon, I think I'm getting that right. But basically, is the French kind of Cary Grant type of a thing. You know, he's just a very smooth, suave guy. And it's where they go the heist. They break in and they steal all the jewels, and it's just a silent scene, but it's orchestrated and directed so well. It is just fantastic. It really is. And I believe it actually may be an homage to Rafifi, which I haven't seen. So please don't at me with that. But still, my reference of it, as I said, is a red circle.
Okay.
And not just that scene, but the whole film itself. If you love crime films, don't let the fact that it's a French movie scare you off. It is fantastic.
Okay. Very good. I went back and forth on this one, and I put it low. It's probably should be really high on the list, but we've talked about it a lot, and I feel like we talk about this a lot. I think we may have to stop talking about this one too, but I'm going to go with those first opening 10 minutes of Up, where it's all basically the kind of history of the relationship between the two of them. Very heartbreaking. Kind of everything is told through just visuals and, you know, the sad music in the background. And it's very moving. Still one of probably the most moving things I've seen on film ever. But we talk about it a lot here, so I put it low because I didn't want to put it too far at the beginning.
Yeah, that the relationship montage from Up is an honorable mention for me. That is one of the most, the most heartbreaking 15 minutes you're ever going to see in a film.
Yeah,
it will leave you in tears. It is so beautiful, but not quite good enough. My number 3, which I'm assuming will be on your list, is the opening of Once Upon a Time in the West. When they're waiting for Charles Bronson to show up at the train station.
Right.
And all it is sound design, really. Yeah. And then Leone's shots of these bad guys just waiting. And it is just an absolute thing of beauty, that thing. The water dripping, right? And the to the water. But Hitchcock's drop dead absolute classic film. Vertigo, and just that scene with Jimmy Stewart, you know, just following her in the cars, and then Bernard Herrmann's score swelling underneath, and it's I think too, Vertigo may be one of my all-time favorite scores. It's just a work of art, that thing. But that Hitchcock's tracking of that whole thing is just perfection. So that's my number 2.
Very good. All right, so my number 2 is the storming of the beach and Saving Private Ryan. There's no dialogue once that starts. This is why I asked you whether you were talking about true quiet or if it was no dialogue. So obviously there's sounds of battle. There's people, you know, getting their faces blown off and stuff like that. But you know, Tom Hanks, no talking as far as, you know, once they start, everything kind of closes in on them while they're in the landing craft. They get out. You know, he starts losing his hearing, watching the stuff kind of go on around him. And then kind of when it all clicks back together, when the film really starts is when the dialogue starts, is when he's being yelled at to kind of take over. So I thought it was a pretty powerful scene. And, you know, I thought it fit the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, it was an honorable mention for me.
It's pretty intense, Chris. I mean, that's a very intense, makes you breathless scene.
It is. I wonder if maybe that's why. There's so much. It's over.
Sure.
It's still, even though there's no dialogue, the audio design, the sound design, it's overwhelming. So, yeah, it's a good one. My number 1 then is Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. The end of the film, as we're trying to figure out what the hell is actually happening. And if you do some research and you read up on it, actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But still, it is an insane film with some of the most beautiful visuals you'll ever seen, possibly one of the most perfectly shot films ever made. I actually was going back and forth between the end and then the monolith, when they discover the monolith on the moon.
Yeah.
But I ended up going with the end of the film.
Yeah. I went with 2001 as well, but you could pick any. There's like 4 or 5 shots that you could pick out of this. I mean, the spinning of the space station while they dock with the Blue Danube waltz playing in the background, the you know, the 2 that you've mentioned, or the discovering of the monolith on Earth by the monkeys, while, you know, Thus Spoke Zarathustra plays and they start to learn how to use tools, all that kind of stuff. It is really, even as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I mean, even the part where the Hal is reading their lips, that is true silence. They're sitting there trying to get one over on Hal, and he's reading their lips, and it just keeps flashing back between them and Hal, and it's just creepy the way the whole thing goes. It's just a masterpiece as far as what he manages to do with silence and visuals in that entire film.
Definitely. Is that on 4K yet? I feel like I need to get that if it is. I don't think I have it on Blue. I think I just have it on DVD.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think I only have it on DVD too. Yeah.
I think I need to watch that again too. Add it to the list.
Add it to the list.
Any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I put the final musical scene from the end of La La Land, just because I found it somewhat moving when they meet each other at the club. And then again, I figured you would yell at me, but also the opening chase scene in Baby Driver, which has absolutely no dialogue in it, although obviously it's all played together.
Yeah.
See, I feel like you're going to argue with me just because it's an action scene.
No. I was thinking about it. I was in my head. I was going through like I didn't think of that, and I'm wondering why I didn't think of that. So that's a good pick. I also had, as I said up earlier, Private Ryan. There Will Be Blood. The opening of that.
See,
film.
I figured that would make your list.
Yeah, not quite, clearly. Robert Redford, the movie All Is Lost, when he's basically on the boat that's sinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that. That one's pretty good. The crop duster scene from North by Northwest.
Yeah.
The opening of Wall-E. I don't know if that counts because Wall-E makes sounds.
I think when we saw that film, though, we said it was almost like a silent movie, the first like 15 minutes of that movie.
Yeah. And then, of course, like half of Drive, but particularly the elevator scene.
Yeah.
With him and Carey Mulligan when the guy's coming to kill them. It's and then he turns and kisses her and then turns back and then basically kicks that guy to death.
Yeah. That film, man, it turns on a dime as far as how brutal it gets, man. It is just, you are not expecting that turn about halfway through there.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 best silent scenes or dialogue-free scenes in a movie. Did we miss any? What's your favorite? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. We would love to hear your thoughts. Next week, Matt, what's coming up? Well, it looks like we're going to watch Rock beat up some video game.
I'm very upset about this.
There's a few things out there maybe we could try and check out, but I don't know. I mean, we are both Rock. We could do the Blumhouse's Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
Coming in at a robust 16%.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that's tied either to Amazon or Netflix. So that's going to be on Amazon or Netflix in like 2 weeks. So I figured let's just wait.
All right. So it'll likely be Rampage. Second film is up in the air, but we will see. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can also hear us on Stitcher and TuneIn. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Of course, you can always find us at thefirstrun.com. Matt, what do you say we take a break? And we will see you all soon. Peace.
Here's the windup and the pitch.
Werewolf?
No, werewolf. Where? Say it.